Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. To the viewing public, thank you for attending the governor's nominees for the PUC Commission, Public Utilities Commission. Today is June 8th, and I'd like to call this is a joint committee hearing. I am the chairman for the JGO, and to my left is the chairman for the PUTC, Rep. Vicente Aldon, and we now call this meeting to order. Looking in the chamber, we do have a quorum. There needs to be 6 members, between 3 from each committee, and we do have that, and that is established. Can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda? There's been a motion to adopt today's agenda. It has been seconded. Today's agenda has officially been adopted. Moving along to item number 4, public comments. If there are any public comments to be made in regard to today's nominees, the floor is now open. Seeing that there's none, we will now go into old business. There is no old business within this committee. We'll move right along into new business. And before we call on the nominees, we'd like to take this time to acknowledge the SAA for the governor's office, Mr. Paul Regis, to give his brief presentation of the nominees. Thank you, Mr. Regis.
Good afternoon, Hofday and Tito Choroman Marisa R. Flores of the Judiciary and Governmental Operations Committee, Chairman Vicente S. Adon of the Public Utilities, Transportation and Communications Committee, as well as to the distinguished honorable members of both respective committees. Due to conflicting of schedule on behalf of the Special Assistant for Administration, Mr. Oscar M. Babauta, I was personally tasked to proxy on his behalf. For the record, my name is Jean-Paul B. Regis from the Office of the Governor. On behalf of Governor Arno I. Palacios and Lieutenant Governor David M. Apatang, I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I am here to introduce the Governor's nominees for the Public Utilities Commission, a former 8th grade teacher of mine, Dr. John A. Angelo, better known as Jack, and Mr. James S. Syrock, attorney at law. Dr. Angelo is an experienced professional with decades of experience. He served as the general manager of the Saipan Sports Complex under the Marianas General Corporation from 1978 to 1979. Was the first Saipan television reporter in the CNMI for Saipan Cable TV in 1979, and was appointed as Governor's Public Information Officer and Protocol Officer from 1981 to 1984. Dr. Angelo then moved to the CNMI Public School System as an instructor for Hubble Junior High School from 1985 to 1986 before continuing his education at San Jose State University. He then returned to Saipan in 1989 and became the vice principal at Marianas High School for 1 year before serving as the principal of Tinian High School from 1990 to 1992. He then pursued high education at the University of Southern California from 1993 to 1996 before coming back to Saipan as Director of Vocational Apprenticeship Division from 1996 to 2002 at the Northern Marianas College. From 2004 to 2006, he served as the paralegal for the CNMI Office of Attorney General before becoming the legislative consultant of the CNMI legislature from 2006 to 2013, having served his first 2-year full-time and the following years part-time. He then served as a principal and head teacher of Ladera International School from 2007 to 2011 before becoming the master teacher for Title I program for the CNMI Public School teacher since 2013. Dr. Angelo graduated from the San Diego State University with a Bachelor's of Arts in Communications and Dramatic Arts in 1970, received his Master's of Arts in Instructional Technology from San Jose State University in 1989, and obtained his doctorate education in instructional technology with a minor in school administration and legal affairs from University of Southern California in 1996. Mr. Cyrock is a professional with over 44 years of experience and is no stranger to public utilities in the CNMI. He served as the Assistant Attorney General from 1979 to 1983 before becoming the Saipan Resident Attorney for the Guam Law Office of Clem, Blair, and Baruch. He then started his own law firm from 1984 to 2013, and then again from 2019 until the present. Within that time, he served as the Judge Pro Tem for the Sinai Superior Court and provided services for the Commonwealth Utilities Corporation from 2010 to 2013 as an administrative hearing officer before becoming the Chief Legal Counsel for the Commonwealth Utilities Corporation from 2013 to 2019. Mr. Cyrock graduated magna cum laude from the College of Sequoias with an Associate of Arts in Math and Science, received his Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science from the University of California in Berkeley, and his Juris Doctorate from Gonzaga University School of Law. Governor Palacios and Lieutenant Governor Apateng placed their full trust and confidence in Dr. Angelo and Mr. Cyrock to serve on the Public Utilities Corporation Commission. I know they stand ready to answer your questions and present their plans for the future. Their long history of professional experience, credentials, and commitment to serving the Commonwealth in this capacity makes them viable candidates, and we kindly ask for your expeditious approval. Thank you, Jesus Mossis and Giliso, for the opportunity to introduce them to this august body. Thank you, Madam Chair and Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Regis. That was quite a lengthy introduction, but thank you so much for your presence and appearing on behalf of the nominees and the governor's office. At this time, the two nominees are in the chamber, sitting on the table with the rest of the members. Can I call a short recess real quick? This time, we'd like to have both nominees stand so that our legal assistant can administer the oath.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you shall give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you, nominees. Please have a seat. At this time, we'd like to invite, I guess you guys could either flip a coin to see who's going to go first. Rock, paper, scissors, as Dr. Angelo was already suggesting at this time. But I guess we'll start based on the agenda on item A. Mr. Cyrock, if you would like to take this time to go ahead and if you have an opening statement, this is the appropriate time to do so. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the governor's office and his representative, Mr. Regis, for his kind introduction of both myself and Mr. Angelo. And I appreciate the opportunity to appear before the legislature and the House here on our appointments. As Mr. Regis has indicated, I have substantial experience with the utilities in the Commonwealth, not only with CUC, but also with the Public Utility Commission, appearing in front of that on several rate petition cases and other requests, as well as several hearings that the commission has scheduled for investigations and just gathering information from the utilities. So as a result, I am familiar with the procedures, the rules, regulations, and the law that the Utility Commission complies with and uses in its operations. As Mr. Regis has indicated, I've been on the island for 43 years. This is my home. My interest in being on the Utility Commission is to, based on my knowledge and experience, is to really be there in support of the citizens of the Mariana Islands. and to make sure that as a regulator, things are being operated properly, not only with utilities and the rates that they have to make sure that they're fair and just, and that's the mandate that the commissioners have under the law, but also with the telecommunications. That would be the telephone and the cell phone, and also the television service as well. So, I think if my resume is in front of you, you will see that. I've also had substantial training in education and utilities. I did attend a 2-week course at the Michigan State University that's given for utilities. It's given where various state commissioners are there, as well as attorneys for commissions, as well as members of FERC, which is Federal Energy Regulation Commission, and their administrative officers. So it goes through various processes of rate making, as well as power purchase agreements and all avenues of utilities, which includes not only power, water, and wastewater, but also telecommunications and what's going on within that system, the internets and so forth. I also attended a program in Singapore, which was a week-long program that dealt solely with power purchase agreements. So I'm very familiar with power purchase agreements, which is something that the utility CUC now is being involved in, not only with various solar project that I understand is going on, but there's a couple other things that would require power purchase agreements, and which are very technical in nature. And so I'm comfortable with that as well. So I think the bottom line, what I'm trying to say is, I think I would be a good asset to the Commonwealth and to the Public Utility Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Cyrock, for your introduction. At this time, we'd like to turn this over to Dr. Jack Angelo.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Chairman, and other members of this body in the House. I appreciate the time to sort of sell myself as a able and hardworking commissioner. The main thing here is that I've lived here for 45 years, and I've been through the ups and downs and power outages, breakdowns, and I worked for the governor, rest in peace, Governor Pete Tenno, and I was fortunate that he made me a liaison with the Department of Public Works, especially the power division, because at that time the power division was within the Department of Public Works. So whenever there were problems, I would directly go to the power plant along with the Director of Public Works, John Pangilinan, and he was a wonderful person to work with. And we tried to find solutions as soon as possible. The one major incident we had is when a crankshaft was burnt, and we had to get it to Japan, Mitsubishi, to get it turned because there's no way to do it here. So we coordinated, I called the Air Force and got a C-130 here, and we got the crankshaft flown out, brought back within a matter of a week. And it turned out well because we were short on power at the time. Rhoda was instrumental in getting a generator put on the Marianas Queen to be sent to Rhoda when their only generator broke down. So I have worked with the power companies in a matter of finding solutions. The rates and the buying of oil, aware of. I know the process of buying the oil from Singapore. There's oil prices, MOPS, Brent, global. And I believe Saipan has been hurt by a monopoly that is sort of holding back on us getting a competitive price. While I was in the legislature back in 2008 as a consultant, I was negotiating a deal with the Philippines with their oil delivery, and they were willing to come in at a lot lower price. The problem is there's only one fuel farm here, and it's owned by Mobil, and they share with Shell. So if we brought them in, the Philippine company, then they would have to rent the fuel farm from Mobil or Shell, and the price was astronomical. So there's sort of a problem here in that we're trapped with pricing and with a monopoly, and it should be looked into, and it should be given serious thought on how to break this fact of our high prices of fuel that come here to Saipan. The rates themselves, they haven't been really monitored for several years because the CPUC has not had a quorum and not been meeting. And so it's sort of no oversight. And CPUC is very important in this regards, that they looked at things objectively. They are pro-business and pro-corporation company because they have to, make a profit. But the citizens and the consumers also have to be protected. So I would emphasize the balance between profit and people. And you always have to get a good balance there. Telecommunications, I worked in radio and I was a TV reporter, and I know the ins and outs of those industries. And they need regulation also, because on a small island like this, TV is a major part of our entertainment. So when it's down, people suffer. They're always calling up the trouble desk. And also the rates on the TV here, I've noticed over the last couple of years, the rates keep on creeping up, but we're losing channels, to watch. And then we have other factors that need to be addressed. So we get a good product with a fair price for the, watching the television and the radio. Radios are doing fine. I find them to be entertaining. So, but TV itself is a pretty important area of concern. The main thing I'd like to say to the members here in the House is that everything needs to be looked at and things need to be changed for the better. Change here is unique in that it's an island community. And I've seen too many outsiders rush in and change everything immediately, and it doesn't work. So there's many factors, island life, families, that affect a change you want to bring about. So as an instructor, for many years here, I worked with students, parents, and other local teachers, and I've discovered there is a balance. When I first got here, I had a good friend, local guy. He said after about 40 years, you might start to understand how it works here. And I find that to be true because I'm in my 45th year, and he says I'm about 3% Chamorro now after 45 years, so I think I'm getting there. But again, that's part of the allure of why I came here, the island life. But we are in a modern world, and the young generations that are coming up are being, the more demanding, and of course, internet, social media, all these things have changed tremendously. So the utilities itself have to change, and they have to be adjusted and moderated and looked at, and let them come in. And if it's justifiable, then go ahead with it. And I believe that everybody here, we're all working together to make Saipan the place it is. It's a nice place to live. And of course, we're dependent on power. We're isolated. And I think we can continue surviving here as long as our utilities are regulated and given the chance to operate. I know many agencies owe them many, many bucks. And these receivables have to be looked at. There has to be some type of arrangement made that they're not become astronomical. CHC owes $53 million. That is just too much. How did it get there? So there has to be a change made. And again, I think with the help of the U.S. government, and mainly the local people and the guys that have moved here, like myself, who enjoy the island life and want to see it succeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Angelo, for your statement. At this time, we'd like to open the floor to the members for any questions. But before we do that, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Rep. Sablon, who's also here, stepped in right in between all of that, and Representative Camacho, who also was probably right in the middle of his lunch as he was coming in. So thank you, Rep. Camacho, Angelo, and Rep. JP for making a presence. At this time, the floor is open for questionings of the two nominees. Thank you. Recognize Representative Atto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chairman of PTC as well. Mr. Cyrock and Mr. Angelo. First, thank you guys for accepting this nomination. We've been trying to fill CPUC for so many years, and I apologize for that. It's one of the most difficult boards or commissions to fill. Obviously, with the workload that comes with this commission, it's huge, and we may actually have to revisit the enabling statute to address the needs of CPUC, not just as a commission, but as a true running entity with the fees that will be collected from the entities that you will be watching over, in a sense, right, with the communications and the utilities. I know for sure that in the beginning of CPUC, only CUC was actually paying. I'm Mr. Cyrock's well aware of that. He was the legal counsel of CUC, and he was negotiating with the ratepayers, knowing the fact that his entity was the one that was the only one paying. And we still have a few other entities, and I believe that when we get to that point, when you guys are fully organized and we start addressing the fees associated with the entities that will be under your watch, we should reconsider. We should definitely consider revisiting the enabling statute. We'll work with you guys so that it'll be a true running commission under the watch of the board, and it's the one board that's definitely a full-time job. And I remember when we first started drafting the legislation, and Mr. Angelo was there back in the 15th legislature, the credentials to be a part of this board was very very high, because we wanted true professionals to be the individuals overseeing the regulated entities. And we had to water it down just a little bit, because there's many individuals that would love to serve. Unfortunately, the professionals would rather be making money than be sitting on a board that's going to pay them a stipend of $60 at the most a day. And for that, really, we appreciate the fact that the two of you men have accepted this challenge with their years of service, not just in this community and your professional work, your educational background. I think we're at a good starting point when we start moving forward with this, with you two gentlemen accepting the nomination, and we look forward to working with you. And we look forward to revisiting the enabling legislation so we can work it to you guys' advantage and be able to collect the true dollars that are being kept away from our CNMI. And with that, Madam Chair, I really don't have any questions, because this commission has, although been around for a couple of years, it's starting from scratch again. So with that, I thank you guys again, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Rep. Atto. The floor is still open. Recognize Rep. Sablon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Cyrock and Mr. Angelo. I too want to express my sincere appreciation for accepting such a challenge. As my colleague, Rep. BJ Atto, had mentioned, previous administration and legislatures has been trying to fill these positions. And just brushing through both of your resume, I can see that you guys have great experiences of public and private services, and I'm really grateful that we're starting to fill these positions. It's an important entity that should be looking towards all our CUC matters and utilities. And I just want to thank you guys and wish you guys the best of luck. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. The floor is still open. Recognize Rep. Joel Camacho.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Chairman. I just want to congratulate you once again, Mr. Cyrock, and congratulations on your new nomination, Dr. Angelo. I know be a lot of challenges up ahead, as we've all seen with the increasing rates that a lot of our consumers have had to deal with in the past few months, and I know that a lot of them are kind of out of control. We have sat with CUC, and if they have explained to us the formula behind the FAC, which a lot of it are uncollected government debt that is factored into that, and then the cost of the rising fuel. But I'm confident now that with a PUC being restored, it's been several years since I remember it ever being having a quorum. That I'm confident that at least our ratepayers, our people out there can have a reassurance that there's another layer on top of to screen rates before CUC makes a final decision. But I believe that's PUC's decision to make based on the law or statute. So once again, I want to congratulate you, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future. And hopefully you can bring about that balance that we greatly need for our community. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. The floor is still open. Recognize Representative Ogle.
Thank you, Chairman Flores and Chairman Aldan. Welcome to the chamber, nominees Jack Angelo and James Sarok. I'm Representative Julie Ogle from the island of Rhoda, and going through the resumes that you guys provided this committee, you both have extensive experience as far as utility is concerned, and I feel confident that both of you will serve well in the board for the PUC board, and if both of you do get confirmed, thank you, and thank you again. Are you?
Thank you, Rep. Ogle. Recognize Rep. Angelo Camacho.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions, but however, I too want to thank you guys for accepting this nomination and accepting this challenge as well. Just know that the Standing Committee on PUTC stands ready to working alongside both you gentlemen. And again, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. At this time, I'd like to make a brief comment before I turn it over to the chairman of the PUTC. And thank you for accepting the nomination. I know that since 2014, this commission has been dismantled and has been inactive. And that's a long time from 2023. Ironically, today on my Facebook, it showed 1 year ago to date, the former executive director made a comment on the Saipan Tribune that CUC has the mandated authority to regulate its rates. And it's just funny how we're sitting here 1 year later and we're trying to establish this commission whose responsibility is to be the regulatory body for that purpose. And so I don't know if it's fate, if it's just the stars aligning that we're here, but this is the first step in ensuring that, as Rep. Atto said, there might be some changes we make to ensure that this body is actually active to conduct its due diligence. I'm glad that you guys, the two nominees, have experience in telecommunications, utilities, wastewater management, and cable. I don't know how much cable is left out there, considering that we're all utilizing our cell phones, but that is part of the telecommunications component, I assume. Maybe we can encourage more public television in terms of educational outreach when it comes down to indigenous and cultural activities and promotions. I think that would be very beneficial to the Commonwealth, in addition to the tourists who visit our island. Um, Dr. Angelo, you also mentioned something about fuel purchase and the monopoly that has taken place over the years. My comment to you would be, please take a look at that, should this committee confirm you, because one of the biggest things that we have seen within this Commonwealth is the great monopoly that goes around. And I'm not talking about the board game with pink $5 bills and orange $500 bills. It's a big problem, and it does need to be controlled and regulated. Anytime there is a public business that is lucrative, there's also money, great money that follows that. And I think there are other commissions that also that I can say have the same sentiment, and we all know what we're talking about in terms of lucrative public commissions. Attorney Cyrock, you mentioned that you have attended a certification course in regulating the rates. I encourage you, please, to ensure that the methods in which you will be applying this is fair and is just, and it takes a look about the long-term planning and effects of that. As you know, power is one of the hugest burdens that the people of the Commonwealth face, considering the um, rate at which a family comes home to as a household. 30,000, 32,000 per annum is not going to cut it when you have a family of five, and you still need to put food on the table. You still need to make car payments, and then you're paying on top of that. And saving money for college for your kids, you're paying these astronomical prices on utilities. Um, just the other day, I received my electric usage bill and it was $80, but the FAC rates were 200 some dollars. And you're looking at families who are about 50% of our population are indigent, and not all of them qualify for these programs that are subsidized by the federal government in terms of power payments and utility welfare, if that's what you want to call it, right? So I do encourage but the both of you to please work for the people. Please ensure that there's fairness. Please ensure that there is communication and public awareness in the duties and the responsibilities in which you are now and if this committee does move forward, they are placing and we are placing a big trust in you, gentlemen. And we know that you're still not going to quorum even after this, but the fact that you are taking it upon yourselves to help the people of the Commonwealth, to ensure that there is fairness and there is just within our community as far as utilities, telecommunications, and power and wastewater management. I thank you, and I yield to the chairman of the Public Utilities Corporation Committee, or Communications Committee. I'm sorry, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, colleague. And good morning, colleagues, gentlemen, good morning. Oh, Mr. Cyrock, sir, I was reading your congratulations first for the nomination. And I really do hope that we could get one more so we could establish a quorum. Because other than that, would still be a lame duck commission, right? I mean, if I'm correct, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure exactly where we are with the membership of the Utility Commission. So you're right. If there's only two of us, then we would not be able to operate. You
Right.
Need three for a quorum.
Which also carries on the problem with unable to actually regulate
That's right.
CUC. We can't regulate IT&E, Docomo, or any of them
That's right.
because we're missing one, right?
If I could interject, Chairman, I did speak with Ramon Blas a couple of weeks ago, and it seemed to me that he was near the end or is a member of the commission, and he was pushing me to send a letter to Governor Arnold to let him know that I'm willing to help. So I believe he's still an active member of the commission. I could be wrong, but if he is, then we would have a quorum to start working on these major problems that we face. Again, I stand to be corrected if,
Yeah, I have no idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I got his number. I'll call him back and see and verify, and then advise the chair, Mr. Odan, that he's still active.
Right, because ever since I started this journey, right, I've been asking, who are the commissioners? Nobody seems to know.
Well, Joe Guerrero was the chair way back when,
Right,
and he had submitted my name to be a member because he knew that they were getting less and less. And there was a reluctance of the previous administration to appoint. I wrote 2 letters, asking to be appointed. So I know he was a very good commissioner, and I don't know if I'll have Ramon maybe contact, and he could submit his uh, letter to the governor if he still wishes to be, because he was effective and a hard worker for the commission.
I hope so too. I mean, because we really do need it. Well, the public does need it.
Yes, Chairman, Mr. Ramon Bossa is still a member, and his expiration date is April 3rd, 2024. We have another member, an existing member, Mr. Oscar Patrick Kirawa from Rhoda. We're just not unsure if he did resign, and his expiration date is April 2026.
Okay, is there a record of that they were nominated, sworn in,
Yes.
and all of that?
Yeah, their confirmation for Ramon Bossa was, which is from the Senate, was March 23rd, 2022. The House was on May 25th, 2022. For Mr. Akirugwa it was the same date. Both had the same date.
Is
So
there any way that we can get that information? Because I've been asking everybody under the rock, and
Okay.
nobody seems to know who's who.
Okay, under the program's legislative review, we keep track, and as new administration comes in, they provide the information.
Okay.
So,
So what we need is, I'm hoping that the 2 gentlemen here gets confirmed quick, fast, and in a hurry. And I would like the other members to be present here next week, because next week on the 27th, we requested that the CUC board and the CUC executive heads come up to the Hill, because we want to know the status of certain things, and I'll be mentioning that later on.
okay, with the assistance of the governor's office, we'll get a hold with Mr. Ramon Bossa for the next week's schedule.
Thank you.
Again, if I may interject, with my conversation with Mr. Bassa, he did say Mr. Kittigaw was a member, but he was on the fence because apparently he was dejected at the lack of a quorum and felt like, why be a part of a commission that wasn't functioning? So I think if we could get a hold of him and let him know that we got possibly 2, myself and Mr. Cyrock, if we do get confirmed, that we could have an active quorum and get to business.
Thank you, sir. Right. So I was looking at Mr. Cyrock, sir. You took the utility regulatory studies course at Michigan State in 2013.
Yes.
Does that, is it just a course? Is it a certification course, licensing course, or is just a course?
It's actually, it's almost like it's a Michigan State curriculum course in utilities. And it is a 2-week program that basically would be a semester course, but everything was jammed into 2 weeks. So we were there versus instead of an hour and a half a day, we're there 8 hours a day for 5 days for 1 week and 5 days for another week. And a substantial number of subjects. We had the individuals that attended were members of the Federal Energy Regulation Commission, which is FERC, their attorneys, administrative hearing officers for FERC, commissioners, state commissioners on state utility commissions, their attorneys, and it dealt with all facets of the utilities, not just power, water, and sewer, but also internet, television, and so forth. And excuse me a minute. These are the studies for
Right.
2 weeks. These are the documents, all of this. So we went through all this. It was like a regular course. And as a result, you become pretty familiar with the different procedures, the requirements, what rate making is about, what regulating is about, various federal laws, which actually FERC, the federal laws don't apply to us out here, but the procedures and the policies are similar to what we deal with out here. And so a very comprehensive course. Mr. Joe Guerrero, the former chairman of the Public Utility Commission, took 1 week. He didn't do the whole 2-week course. He did 1 week. He recommends it to everybody. He says that all commissioners should be taking that course because it's very comprehensive and it studies basically the regulation aspect, the regulatory aspect of utilities, not just the operation of the utility from the administrative side itself.
Yes. So within that class, right, that you took in 2013, is there a CEU, because policies changes, statute changes, and whatnot, to ensure that we're up to date on the information, with regards to how to and set rates and regulate utilities?
Well, I think the process of setting rates is similar. It doesn't go out. In other words, you have to consider these various elements and put them into a rate study, and you have to do a study, and so that process doesn't expire. Unlike the laws may change because you have modifications and so forth. But as I indicated, for the federal laws, they don't apply to us out here, so I'm not worried about that. But the procedures and how you do rate making, how you handle power purchase agreements, what you look at in power purchase agreements from a independent power producer, which is what we're sort of involved with now with CUC and the solar project that's going on and other things. All of that basically stays the same. It doesn't get old and doesn't get modified. You may look at different techniques, but I'm very comfortable with what I learned there. And all the way until I left CUC in 2019, everything was still applicable. So I'm very comfortable with that.
So, Mr. Andrews, would you be willing to take that course?
Sure.
Right. So here's my, because this is an issue that not a lot of people are aware of. A couple of months ago, when the CUC board members had their monthly meeting, I asked every single one of them, do any one of them know how to set and regulate rates? That was like 3-4 months ago. To this day, I'm still waiting for an answer.
Yeah, there's nobody.
Okay, so right now we are live. Is there any way that you could summarize how to set rates? Maybe, hopefully, they're listening.
Well, they first need to have a study we used economist.com when I was at CUC. They have to go through the study and determine they have to look at the revenues, they have to look at the expenses, which is very detailed. And that's based on the efficiency of the engines, the cost of fuel, aside from administrative costs, which is easy to calculate, wages and supplies and things like that. But the actual cost of running the system, which requires a study. And so you have to go through that process. You have to figure it out. And then it's a matter of looking at the various, let me say this, within the CUC right now, the three systems, which are power, water, and wastewater, the only one that I know that's making money is power. Power is subsidizing water and wastewater. So you have to look at the losses of both water and wastewater, and of course the fuel adjustment charge. And I'm prepared to talk about the fuel adjustment charge whenever someone has questions about that and explain that to you. But it's a complicated system is what I'm saying. It's something that can't be done just sitting down in a day's time. You have to have a lot of studies done, and then they come and put that together, and they can determine, the economists can determine what it takes to get a certain rate. And they can propose different rates in different manners. And so that becomes complicated itself. We now have sort of a flat rate, and then we use, we don't have a flat rate. It depends on whether you're government, residential, or commercial. And then you have to add on the fuel adjustment charge. But I guess the bottom line, I'm rambling on here, but it's not an easy process to explain. But I can say this, based on my experience and my knowledge of who's on that board and who's in the administration right now, there isn't anybody that I know that's in there now that has done a rate case or been involved in a rate case. We haven't done a rate case since 2014. Yeah.
Right. So there's right now, CUC is owed money, right? And we're approaching the $100 million mark. How do you, where do you think that kicks in to the charges that CUC, plays? So put it this way: if you're owed close to $100 million, wouldn't that affect your operation and in the utilities?
Of course.
Right.
Right.
So if they're not collecting that funds, how is it that CUC is capable and able to operate?
Well,
when you're close to $100 million shortfall.
Right. Well, are you asking me?
Yeah, whichever one.
It's an interesting process, and we know that the power is subsidizing the water and wastewater divisions right now. I haven't been there since 2019, but I was there before that. I know that the fact that the government and the Commonwealth, I call it the Commonwealth Hospital, I'm sorry, CHCC, puts a tremendous burden on the ability of CUC to operate. And that is because it doesn't provide enough funding to take care of, let's say, for example, there isn't a reserve fund. I mean, we all know that CUC is not a profit-making company. But it has to at least generate revenues that cover the expenses. And the fact that you have those losses that are within the rates, within the rate making, both the rate making process on the standard rate as well as the FAC, you have to put in an element for allowance for doubtful accounts. You don't expect that those accounts be millions of dollars.
So, repeat that again. I just want to make sure that
allowance
the public
for
hears
doubtful
that.
accounts.
So repeat the whole sentence again.
You have to put in, it's a bad debt expense, basically. You put in allowance for doubtful accounts. For the fuel adjustment charge.
So we put in allowance on a bad, what was that?
Bad debt,
A bad debt.
yes.
So who's putting in that allowance,
Well, it has to be calculated in the rates.
and who's paying that rate?
Well, the ratepayers are paying
There
the
you go.
rate.
Okay, thank
Exactly.
you.
But it is an element of rate making. And it's considered both in the rate making, the general rate itself, as well as the fuel adjustment charge.
So as long as CUC is not collecting the funds that it owes, the regular ratepayers are the one that's footing that bill.
That's true.
Right. Okay. Because CUC was telling me that no, it's not factored in, but whatever.
No, it is.
Right. So, and here's another thing that I hope that you guys as commissioners will be able to take care of. I've lived in a third world country, and I've lived in a first rate country. Right. And when I apply for internet services, even in a third world country, I'm not required to have landlines. So how is it that Docomo and CUC requires residential or commercial customers to have landline, in order to have internet? They have to have a telephone line in order for them to have internet. Even though the customers, they already have their cell phone, they don't need landlines, but yet they get charged for landline services that they don't have to and they don't need. With today's technology, I'm not sure why IT&E and Docomo charges for landlines that nobody needs. So I hope that you guys will be able to take care of that. And the other thing about the communications is that I've been getting calls, from the public that customers, I understand when you read the terms and conditions, okay, there's a section in that says that, the company has the right to change rates, accordingly. But for whatever reason, maybe the public, some of the public have been letting me or telling me that the IT&E is causing them to change plans. There's a difference between changing rate and changing plans. So when a customer gets a bill and they tell them that, we changed your plan from plan A to plan B, and I'm sorry that plan B is more expensive and we don't provide services for plan A anymore. How in the world can you do that? I understand rates, but when you're telling somebody and you're forcing somebody to change plan to a more expensive plan that they could barely afford the first plan to begin with, and then they get disconnected, and then when they're going to have to reconnect, they're going to have to pay penalties and all of that. That's it.
Simple answer is that the CPUC has not been in operation for 7, 8 years. So they can do whatever they want to do.
Absolutely. And that's where I see that, it is the executive branch's fault for not appointing members that are duly qualified to execute this. Because at the end of the day, every single ratepayer, every single customer, is paying that price, which I do not comprehend at all. That here's a commission, here's a position that affects every single person's life, every government agency, every building, every customer. Well, let me rephrase that. Here's a position that affects every government agency. It affects every business and it affects every household. But yet, for whatever reason, we can't get a commission, to have a quorum because we do not have a complete members. And that is a failure of the government, which is crazy because every single one of us is part of the government, whether we like it or not. But somebody is not doing their job to make sure that they protect the best interests of the general public, not just the privileged few. So I hope and I pray that, the two of you gentlemen are, sworn in, and we could get Mr. who's that, Kiduga or Blas, whoever,
Mr. Baza.
Mr. Baza, to please come in. And I would really, really love to sit down with you, gentlemen. I'm pretty sure that my colleagues and I would love to sit with you guys so that we could start really understanding and making the changes that is needed to change, and to start regulating the entities that needs to be regulated, because everybody that is dealing with this type of business are running amok. And then who pays the price? The general public. Those that run it, they really don't care. Why? Because the general public is the one that's funding their paycheck. And the fact of the matter is that, we don't have a whole lot of competitors. And especially the fact that we only have one utility company, but yet they're more than willing to rape every customer that they can rape. And I hope that we could all sit down and try to figure this out and help out the general public, at the end of the day. So I'm sorry if I put you guys on the spot. I just wanted to make sure that we do understand that we have a lot of issues. There's a lot of families that are living way below the poverty line that cannot afford to have these services, because they have to fight. Either we pay the medical bill, or do we pay the power? Do we buy food, or do we pay the internet? All of these crazy things. So I really do hope, and I really do believe that we could all sit down and really try to figure this out, because one way or another, the people have to be relieved of this burden. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to take a brief moment to supplement my first response to what the procedure of a rate making is, because I just sort of described the initial step one, and that's trying to get together all the information through a study to determine what the cost and expenses are to come up with some kind of proposal for a rate. Once that proposal is done, you can come up with several different scenarios on how to put a rate together. It goes to the board of CUC. CUC approves the proposal that they want to present to the commission. At that time, CUC has to put together a petition. It's like filing a complaint. It's very long, and it puts together all of the bases for the rate request, all of the information, and includes testimony, written testimony. That's usually signed by the director or the finance, the CEO, CPO, Chief Financial Officer, CFO, as well as some people from the power plant and so forth that support all of the allegations of the expenses and revenues. Then it goes to the commission. The commission then has a set of economists as well. And they look over that and they decide, well, this is true, this is not true. We've done our own studies. We know this, we do that. And there's a hearing officer. And generally what the hearing officer does is he gets both parties together and they sit down in a room and they talk back and forth and see if they can come to some kind of an agreement as to what an appropriate rate would be that would be just and reasonable. That's the standard, just and reasonable and fair. And if they can't agree, then it's set for a hearing. And a hearing would be just like a trial where you bring witnesses in and so forth. If not, the easiest process is you go by stipulation, and the hearing officer presents those stipulations to the board. The board then decides whether to accept that stipulation or whether to accept it with modifications or not accept it at all. If they accept it, that's the new rate.
Think about it. And there's this book here that I have, right? I believe that you might want to get a copy of this. This is all the bills, the laws that pertains to CUC. And majority of these laws has prevented CUC from recovering its cost of service. So I really do believe that, we need to sit down together and go through all this and figure out which one needs to be repealed, amended, or, yeah. Okay. Thank you again. Sorry, are you?
Thank you, Chairman Aldon. The floor is still open for any other comments that need to be made based on the exchange that was happening. None. Recognize Rep. Sablan.
I don't have any, thank you, Madam Chair Flores and Chairman Aldon. I don't have any further questions, but I believe a lot of our members from both standing committee has expressed the sincere need that we fill these positions, seats in the public utilities. And at this time, I want to make a motion that both joint standing committee adopt the nomination for Mr. James S. Cyrock and Dr. John Jack A. Angelo, and that the committee formulates a committee report recommending to the full body of the House that that they confirm Mr. James S. Cyrock and Dr. John Jack A. Angelo to serve as member of the Public Utilities Commission. So move.
There's been a motion on the table to approve the two gentlemen that have been nominated for the PUC Commission, and it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Short recess. And we're back from recess. Thank you, gentlemen. The next item on our agenda is miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous discussions? Being that there's none, item number 8, can I get a motion to adjourn? There's been a motion to adjourn. It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a nice weekend.